when you create a movie, a film, TV series, in a way you could consider it a work of art. Because it's a creation that you make. You may write a story that you want to put on the screen. It's something that, you've been maybe writing for quite some time. And, now you've gotten the moment that you want to take it to the next level to share that with many people. But you have someone, let's say you want to share in your neighborhood and you want to share it with the rest of the neighborhood. But you have someone in the corner of your block that says, I don't like it. And I need you to remove this, that, and the other thing. You wouldn't like that. You wouldn't like that at all. So why do Hollywood bends the knee to China? You might say, well, yeah, it's the finance, the money that they make on there. Well, China doesn't care about your product. All they care is about censoring your product and pushing that back so that they can promote their censorship in our own country. Because they'll get us to the point where basically we are no longer making movies for the American crowds. We're making the movies for censorship. That basically propaganda, activism. And there was a recent article on, if you're familiar with No Film School. Good site for those of us in the industry. And basically, this article puts out that China wants to send Hollywood a message. And we know this on there. Over the summer, Top Gun was one of the, and still is, to this day, is still making money. Will it reach the $2 billion mark? It probably might be. It's continuing to, crowds are still, I think it's making about 5 to 8 million a week, continuing. It's still making money. And Tom Cruise didn't bend the knee because China did not want certain flags on the jacket that he wore in the original film. But see, that's censorship. Because they had a political agenda behind that. They don't want this, that. They changed the ending to the current Minions movie. I don't know if you heard that story yet. Yes, they changed the ending to Minions to appease the government of China. Now, this particular article says, China sends a Hollywood message. Hollywood relationships with China has been on the run. Understand how important is the success of their films of one of their most important box office happens to be located in China. But due to the tough censorship, many Hollywood films, including Disney films, haven't been able to satisfy the Chinese market. The American stories that are sent over to China have to go through the Communist Party censors to get approval to be shown in the country. Unfortunately, Hollywood has had trouble getting its films approved for the Chinese theatrical releases as the country nationalism grows. Now, China has asked Hollywood to improve the quality of their stories for Chinese audiences. A report that Sun Yi, the vice minister of the Communist Central Committee Publicity Department, said, "We hope that the quality of American films can continue to be improved on the basis of respecting our cultural customs and audience behavior. If the U.S. decides to keep making films that does not meet the expectations of China," Yellen said, "we will import from wherever countries that make better films and films that are more suitable for the taste of the Chinese audience." This is the first that a high-level Chinese official has hinted at why the country has drastically pulled back from accepting American films. Hollywood market shares has plunged to record lows last year as China moves to curb Western influences. As one of the world's largest markets, China has been been important. According to Hollywood Films, they make up 48.2% of the Chinese box office revenue. However, the Chinese Communist Party has left American projects on the shelf in favor of patriotic-themed Chinese propaganda. The naturalistic wave of the Chinese public has boasted a genre unique to the Chinese industry that refers to the quasi-propagandistic movies that embody the ideologies of the Chinese Communist Party over the mega blockbusters imported from Hollywood. The recent state-backed productions focus mainly main melody films which extort communist values, adding a layer of uncertainty for all non-main melody product, including both Chinese language products as well as imports that include U.S. major studios. Rance POW, president of Artist Galaxy, told Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood has already made tweaks to its stories to make it into Chinese theaters, as China warns Hollywood to make films that appeal to a wider international audience. The U.S. film industry has to figure out how it will adjust to pass the newest strict censorship. Will Hollywood storytelling change to appeal to China's request for American films that respect their culture and customs? There is a high chance of that answer. If yes, Hollywood studios want to continue to make big bucks. See, the thing about it is, this is, like I said, this is censorship. This is censorship, and this is the bend the knee. And it's happening over here too. You have to remember one thing. We've discussed this before. When you hear they talk of diversity made for the modern era, that we need to put this in our films, that is censorship also. We've gone through before the Hays Code era, and we're going through it again, Hays 2.0. We've heard stories that Amazon is telling India that it has to be more diverse. You're telling a country of about 1.4 billion people that they have to be diverse. Now you're wondering why a movie like RRR did so well as it is, because basically it's a story. See, the thing about it is, we're telling a story. It should not be backed by activism, politics, propaganda. People don't want that. People don't want that. And when it comes to China, if they don't want our films, then don't send them our films. You say, well, we make money off of them. Top Gun proved it wrong. All the money Top Gun made was without China. Over $1 billion. How much more could they made from China? I doubt Top Gun would have been ever approved in China. Ever. And not because of the jacket. It is basically a story of American flyers. And the thing is that basically, how can we say this? It's like World War II and a lot of the movies that came out of that. Yeah, we had propaganda in that because that was part of the war effort. But then you had films that were very well made that the Germans didn't want you to see. Truth, justice, and the American way. An important line from a great superhero like Superman, who basically now has been taken apart and no longer says that. Why? He was raised American. He helped anyone in the world. But the thing about it is, you have to remember, raised as an American and the beliefs of America. We watch films from Indonesia, Thailand, Russia, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, South America, Mexico, Canada, Japan. They all have different cultures. Do we ban those films here? Do we have them edit those films? In the case of anime, you have people who basically think that we wouldn't understand the culture. And see, that's the thing. It's a double-edged sword. People says, well, you're not going to understand the culture. I said, how are we not going to understand the culture if we don't see what the culture is like? And then in the other case, you have people who just, tell you, this is the way the world should be run. I said, no, that's not the way the world should be run. People should have freedoms. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech. They should not be able to afraid to write a story, make a movie, paint a painting. As I said before in another video, if you've seen the footage during the Iraq situation and during the Gulf War and the aftermath, and you've seen the extremists, what they've done to museums. And basically that they've gone into the museums and take down history. We have that done here too. And people says, well, we can't have Columbus on there because he was a racist. He was a slave merchant and stuff like that. But you have to look at the story itself. You're not talking about the story. You're talking about situations that were going on in the time period. We got to remove the Civil War statues because basically it's racist, white supremacists. Erasing that doesn't tell people the story of the Civil War and what this country fought for freedoms. People don't realize that. And they have to be reminded every day of that. Well, our original leaders, they had slaves, they were racist. So, look at where we were then and where we are now. We wouldn't have the freedoms if it wasn't for them, the people before us. And now you want to take down their statues, erase them from history. See, that's what China does. China does that. They don't want information from outside their country to infect their people, where their people will turn against them and realize that basically they're under, a rule that should not be. These people should be free. That's why Taiwan went the way it went, because they saw it. They don't want Chinese rule in their country. They want to be free and away from China. That's why people want to run to America, because they figure it's a better place to be. But you have people who here wants to make it just like there. You already see it in the TV shows. You already see it in the movies. And, they say, well, if you don't like the movie, you're a racist. So I don't like the movie because basically it's crap. It's plain and simple. It's crap. You're interjecting your politics. You're not telling a story. You're just doing politics, activism. You're changing characters that were written by someone a long time ago and say, well, we need to have diversity in this story. Well, that's not what he wrote. Well, he was a racist. They said, no, he wasn't. He wrote a story and he created a world, his own world. And it wasn't that he didn't want to put it diverse, is he chose a section of the world at a time where basically most people were in their own countries at that time. And that's saying, like, the European, England and Scotland and Ireland, though, you know, that section of the world didn't know what an Asian was, or someone who was black or Hispanic, until they moved outward. And you know I'm talking about Lord of the Rings, obviously. But another famous writer by the name of Isaac Asimov, I met back in the late 80s before he died, told me that he would only be remembered for 60 words. 60 words. That his writings would be perverse, would be, you know, would be forgotten. And that's the problem. When you change something, when you change characters like Tom Swift, when you change characters like Archie and the gang, when you change characters in the Foundation, Lord of the Rings, you are erasing what the actual story itself. Because you're saying, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. It was written a certain way. If you don't like it, make your own. Make your own. And do you know why you don't want to make your own? Because it probably people won't like it. That's the hypocrisy of the situation. And that's the situation that, you know, we have to go through right now. That's where we have to fight and fight. And the revolution, we keep going and saying the revolution. You know, this is the fight that we're doing right now. We have to stand up, you know. When Hollywood says, well, we have to bend the knee to China and take this out, take that out. Why? To appease them? Change the poster and make sure that, you know, you talk about diversity and stuff like that, but meanwhile, you take a poster like Black Panther or Star Wars and you either make the black person much smaller in the picture or you cover him up with a helmet. That's being racist. That's being racist because you have a country that is racist against its own people and have concentration camps, which we know of. We have satellite footage. We have video footage of what they're doing to people. And the UN and many other countries are not condemning them heavily. We're repeating World War II all over again. So tell me in the comments below your thoughts on this. I know we went in a couple of directions on here, but they all interconnect. They all come together. History repeats itself. We have to stop that. We have very creative people, especially in this country. And they're being stifled. They're being snuffed. If it wasn't for the internet, we would not know of a lot of these people. And it's much easier to make your own production. And this is why I say, do it yourself. Fuck Hollywood. Fuck the mainstream media. Fuck broadcast television. You can do it yourself and put it out yourself. And people will pay to see it. Take that time for those you creative out there and tell me in the comments if you're one of these creatives. You know, how are you getting the message out? What are you doing to get that message on there? Because you can make the money. You can rent a movie theater to show your film. It is possible. There are many ways, and the internet can connect you to many people. Because I look at my analytics, and I see people from Australia, Russia, Portugal, Indonesia, many places in the world. Not a lot, but I know some people do see it. It's there in the analytics. So the message is getting out there. So comment, subscribe, like, share, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye now.